The stars had witnessed 300 years of human suffering, and tonight they would witness something new. Admiral Park Do-yoon stood at the observation window of Station Kepler 7, his hands clasped behind his back. His uniform was worn and faded, the kind given to humans who worked logistics for the Galaxy Council. Not a warrior's uniform. Never that. Humans were not allowed to be warriors. Below him, in the station's central plaza, Council enforcers dragged 12 human miners to their knees. The miners had committed a terrible crime in the eyes of the Council. They had gathered together. They had talked about their lives. They had dreamed of something better. For this, they would die. Do-yoon's jaw tightened as he recognized one of the miners. Park Jun-ho, his younger brother. The boy who used to chase butterflies in the fields of old Korea. The man who had followed his older brother to the stars, hoping to find purpose among them. A Tellurian enforcer. Tall and covered in scales the color of dried blood. Read the charges in a bored voice. Unauthorized assembly. Suspected sedition. Threat to galactic peace. The words meant nothing. Everyone knew the truth. Humans gathered, and the Council was afraid. The executions were quick. Energy weapons flashed blue in the artificial light. 12 bodies fell. Jun-ho's eyes found his brother's in that final moment, and Do-hyun saw no fear in them. Only a quiet message that needed no words. Remember this. Do-hyun did not cry. He had forgotten how to cry decades ago. Instead, he memorized every detail. The smell of burned flesh. The laughter of the enforcers. The silence of the human workers who watched from the shadows. Their faces empty of expression, but their hearts burning with rage. They could never show this was life under the Galaxy Council. 12 species ruled the stars. They had built empires when humans still lived in caves. They had conquered faster than light travel when humans were learning to farm. And when humans finally reached the stars, full of hope and wonder, these elder species looked at them and saw only one thing: useful animals. For 3 centuries, humanity served. They mined asteroids. They cleaned stations. They hauled cargo. They were forbidden from building warships. Forbidden from developing weapons. Forbidden from gathering in groups larger than 5. They existed at the pleasure of their masters, and their masters had very little pleasure to give. But the Council made one mistake. They assumed that because humans were young, they were also stupid. They assumed that because humans smiled and obeyed, they had accepted their chains. They assumed that patience was the same as weakness. They were wrong. 10,000 light years away, on a planet called Earth, President Kim Il-sung stood before the United Terran government. The chamber was deep underground, hidden beneath mountains that had witnessed human history since the beginning. The men and women gathered here were the true leaders of humanity, not the puppet governors the Council had installed. 300 years, Yuna said. Her voice was soft but carried the weight of centuries. We have waited 300 years. Our grandparents waited. Our parents waited. We have waited. And now, finally, the waiting ends. She pressed a button, and the wall behind her became a window into space. But not empty space. The gathered leaders gasped as they saw what floated in the darkness of the Oort cloud, hidden in the frozen edges of their solar system. Ships. Thousands of ships. Warships of designs the Council had never seen, built with technology humans were not supposed to have. For 200 years, in secret shipyards carved into asteroids far from any Council patrol, humanity had been building. Project Horizon, Yuna continued. 2,400 warships. Weapons that can crack planets. Shields that can withstand anything the Council has. And crews trained in secret, waiting for this moment. An old general raised his hand. The Council will destroy us. They have millions of ships. They have millions of old ships, Yuna replied. Ships built by species who haven't faced a real war in 10,000 years. Ships crewed by soldiers who have never known true desperation. She smiled, and there was something ancient in that smile. We have something they don't. We have 300 years of rage. In a small apartment on Station Kepler 7, Lieutenant Commander Cho Gie received a message on a device that officially did not exist. She had spent 15 years pretending to be a merchant navigator, hauling grain and medical supplies between human colonies. In truth, she was one of humanity's finest tactical minds, trained in secret academies hidden in the asteroid belt. The message was simple. 3 words that changed everything. Project Horizon activated. Ga closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She had trained for this moment since she was 16 years old. Her mother had trained for it before her. Her grandmother had helped build the first secret shipyard. 3 generations of her family had lived lies so that this generation could finally live free. She destroyed the device and began packing. By tomorrow, she would be aboard a warship. By next week, the galaxy would learn what humans were truly capable of. Admiral Do-hyun received his own message as he stood over his brother's grave. There was no body to bury. The council had incinerated the remains. But Do-hyun had found a stone and carved Junho's name into it, placing it in a small garden that humans maintained in secret. The message told him to report to coordinates in deep space. It told him that he had been chosen to command humanity's fleet. It told him that everything he had suffered, everything he had lost, had not been in vain. He looked up at the stars that had watched his brother die. Soon, those same stars would watch something different. They would watch humanity rise. Do-hyun traveled for 3 days, his small shuttle jumping through secret routes that the council had never discovered. When he finally arrived at the coordinates, he found himself surrounded by darkness. Empty space. Nothing. Then the lights came on. Ship after ship emerged from the shadows, their running lights blinking to life like awakening giants. Destroyers, cruisers, battleships, carriers, 1,000 vessels. Then 2,000, then more than he could count. They filled his viewport from edge to edge, a wall of steel and fury that humanity had built in silence. His communication system crackled. 1,000 voices spoke as one. "Welcome home, Admiral." Do-hyun felt something wet on his cheek. A tear. After all these years, he had remembered how to cry. "Begin final preparations," he ordered, his voice steady despite the emotion flooding through him. The Galaxy Council has ruled for 10,000 years. Tonight, we teach them that nothing lasts forever. In the depths of space, hidden from a galaxy that had underestimated them, humanity prepared for war. The flagship Dawn of Terra was the largest warship humanity had ever built. It stretched nearly 3 kilometers from bow to stern, bristling with weapons that council scientists would have called impossible. Admiral Park Do-hyun walked its corridors for the first time and felt like a man seeing the sun after a lifetime underground. Chief Engineer Baek Sunho met him in the main engine room. Sunho was a small man with gray hair and hands stained permanently with engine grease. He had spent 40 years in these secret shipyards, building machines of war while the council believed humans could barely maintain cargo vessels. "She's beautiful, isn't she?" Sunho said, patting a bulkhead like it was a beloved pet. "My grandfather helped design the first prototypes. My father built the engines. I finished what they started." Do-hyun nodded slowly. "How did we hide all of this? For 200 years? Sunho smiled. "The council thinks we're stupid, Admiral. They never looked too closely at our mining operations. They never wondered why we needed so many asteroids. They never questioned why our cargo ships sometimes took longer routes." He laughed, a dry sound. "They were so busy treating us like animals that they forgot animals can bite." Throughout the fleet, similar scenes played out. Officers who had spent their lives pretending to be merchants, farmers, and laborers finally revealed their true skills. Weapons specialists who had trained on hidden bases in the asteroid belt. Pilots who had practiced combat maneuvers in simulators disguised as mining equipment. An entire military built in shadow. Cho Jie arrived aboard the destroyer Indomitable and immediately felt at home. The ship was smaller than the flagship but fast and deadly, designed for quick strikes and tactical precision. Her crew of 300 had never served together before, but they moved with the efficiency of soldiers who had trained their entire lives. Lieutenant Commander Cho, her first officer, said, saluting, "The ship is ready for your inspection." GA walked through every corridor, checked every system, spoke with every department head. She found no problems. 200 years of secret preparation had created a military force without weakness. Every detail had been planned. Every possibility had been considered. In her quarters that night, she allowed herself a moment of fear. Not fear of battle, fear of failure. Her grandmother had died dreaming of this day. Her mother had sacrificed everything for it. If GA failed, 3 generations of her family would have lived and died for nothing. She pushed the fear aside. There was no room for doubt now. Far across the galaxy, on the Council's capital world of Nexus Prime, High Arbiter Vorath reviewed troubling reports. The Tellurian leader was ancient, even by the standards of his long-lived species. His scales faded to a pale gray. He had ruled the Council for 600 years and had never seen anything like this. Human productivity had dropped across all mining colonies. Not dramatically, but enough to notice. Ships carrying human crews were arriving late or taking strange routes. And 3 Council investigators had gone missing in human space. "Something is wrong," Vorath said to his advisors. "The humans are planning something." His advisors laughed. Humans? Planning? The very idea was absurd. Humans were workers, not thinkers. They had neither the technology nor the intelligence to threaten the Council. Vorath did not laugh. He had lived long enough to know that the most dangerous enemies were the ones you underestimated. "Send more investigators," he ordered, "and increase patrols in human sectors. I want to know what they're doing." On the agricultural world of Seraphor, farmer Li Minho worked his fields as the sun set. He had lived on this planet for 20 years, growing crops that fed human colonies across the sector. His wife, Han Sujin, managed their small homestead with quiet efficiency. To their neighbors, they were simple farmers. Nothing more. Their communication device buzzed with a coded message. Minho read it twice, then shared it with Sujin. Her eyes widened, then hardened with determination. "It's time," she said. They had been sleeper agents for 15 years, planted on Seraphor to wait for a signal that might never come. They had raised children here, made friends, built a life, all while knowing that one day they might have to burn it all down. That day had arrived. Minho began contacting other sleeper agents across the planet. There were hundreds of them, scattered through farms, factories, and cities. Each one had a role to play when the war began. Communication arrays to capture, supply lines to secure, enemy movements to report. "Are you afraid?" Sujin asked him that night. "Yes," Minho admitted. "But I'm more afraid of what happens if we fail. Our children deserve better than chains." The Council's investigators finally caught a break. On a remote station near the edge of human space, they captured a smuggler named Yun Tai Wu. His ship carried no illegal cargo, but his navigation log showed visits to coordinates that officially didn't exist. They brought Tai Wu to an interrogation facility and began asking questions. The Council's methods were not gentle. They had technology that could break any mind, extract any secret. Tai Wu lasted 3 days. He screamed. He begged. He bled. But he never spoke. Not one word about Project Horizon. Not one hint about the fleet. Not one name of the people he had served. On the fourth day, his heart stopped. The interrogators found a small device implanted in his chest, designed to kill him before he could betray his people. The council investigators reported their findings to High Arbiter Vorath. A human had died rather than reveal secrets. A human had shown loyalty beyond anything the council had ever seen from their own species. Vorath felt fear for the first time in centuries. What kind of enemy were they facing? Aboard the Dawn of Terra, Admiral Do-Yoon received word of Tai Wu's death. He had never met the man, but he ordered a moment of silence throughout the fleet. 2,400 ships fell quiet to honor a smuggler who had given everything. His sacrifice won't be forgotten, Do-Yoon said. And it won't be wasted. The timeline had accelerated. Tai Wu's capture meant the council was suspicious. They needed to move before more agents were discovered, before the enemy had time to prepare. Do-Yoon opened a channel to all human colonies, using frequencies the council had never detected. His voice reached miners and farmers, merchants and laborers, billions of humans scattered across the galaxy. My name is Park Do-Yoon. For 300 years, we have served masters who treated us as less than animals. We have watched our brothers and sisters die for crimes they never committed. We have smiled and bowed while our hearts burned with rage we could never show. He paused, letting the words sink in. That time is over. Tonight, humanity rises. Tonight, we show the galaxy what we truly are. Not servants. Not slaves. Warriors. Across human space, people wept. They embraced. They looked up at the stars with new eyes. 300 years of chains, Do-Yoon continued. Tonight, they end. And nothing in this galaxy will ever be the same. The fleet began to move, spreading across space like a tide that could not be stopped. The awakening had begun, and the galaxy was about to learn the price of 3 centuries of cruelty. The human fleet divided into 7 battle groups and disappeared into the darkness between stars. Each group had a target. Each target had been studied for decades. Every patrol route, every defense system, every weakness had been mapped by spies who lived and died without recognition. Admiral Park Do-Yoon led the largest force toward Nexus Prime, the heart of Council power. 1,200 ships followed him, more firepower than the Council believed humans possessed in their entire civilization. Cho Jihei commanded a smaller but equally deadly force aimed at Forge Station, the Council's main military shipyard. If they could destroy it, the enemy would lose their ability to build new warships for years. All ships report ready, Jihei's first officer announced. Good. Jihei studied the tactical display showing Forge Station. It was massive, a structure that had taken 3,000 years to build. Hundreds of ships docked in its ports. Thousands of workers lived within its walls. Not all of them were enemies. Remember the rules of engagement, she told her crew. We are not here for revenge. We target military installations and armed vessels. Any ship that surrenders will be spared. Any escape pod will be rescued. We are warriors, not murderers. Some of her crew looked disappointed. They had dreamed of vengeance for centuries, but they followed orders. Discipline was the foundation of humanity's secret military. The attacks began simultaneously, coordinated across thousands of light years. Human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel and opened fire before the enemy even knew they were there. At Forge Station, Jihei's destroyers struck with surgical precision. Their first targets were the communication arrays, cutting the station off from the rest of the galaxy. Then the defense platforms, destroyed before they could fire a single shot. The Council had built these defenses to fight enemies they understood. They had never imagined an enemy like this. Enemy vessels launching from docking bays, her tactical officer reported. Count is 200 and rising. Let them launch, Jihei said calmly. They're flying into a trap. The council ships were freshly built but crewed by pilots who had never faced real combat. They flew in textbook formations, using tactics from training manuals written 10,000 years ago. Jihei had studied those manuals. She knew every move they would make before they made it. Her destroyers split into smaller groups, drawing the enemy fleet apart. Then the trap closed. Human ships appeared from behind asteroids, above the station, below it. Crossfire tore through the council formation. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, Forge Station was in human hands. 112 council ships had been destroyed. Another 89 had surrendered. GA had lost only 7 vessels. She broadcast to the survivors in the station. This is Commander Cho GA of the Terran Fleet. The station is under human control. All military personnel will be detained. Civilian workers will be unharmed. Medical teams are standing by for wounded. Do not resist, and no more blood needs to be spilled. The surrender came quickly. Council soldiers, so confident in their superiority just hours ago, laid down their weapons without a fight. Many of them stared at the human Marines with disbelief. These were the primitive creatures they had looked down upon for centuries. At Nexus Prime, the battle was larger but equally one-sided. Admiral Doan's fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel directly above the Council's capital world. The planet's defense grid activated instantly. Thousands of weapons platforms opening fire. Deploy the jammers, Dohyun ordered. Human ships released devices that spread across local space, filling it with interference that blocked all faster-than-light communication. Nexus Prime was cut off from the rest of the galaxy. No reinforcements would come. No warnings would be sent. High Arbiter Varath watched from his palace as human warships filled his sky. He had lived 600 years. He had seen species rise and fall. He had never felt true fear until this moment. How is this possible? He demanded. They were supposed to be primitive. They were supposed to be weak. None of his advisors had answers. The humans they had enslaved for 3 centuries were now tearing through defenses that had stood for 10,000 years. Dohyun did not destroy the planet. He did not need to. His fleet systematically eliminated every military installation, every weapons platform, every armed vessel. The Council's war-making capability died in hours. Then, President Kim Yuna's face appeared on every screen in the galaxy. Human hackers had taken control of the Council's communication network, broadcasting on frequencies that reached every world, every station, every ship. My name is Kim Yuna, President of the United Terran Government. Today, humanity has struck back against 300 years of oppression. Her voice was calm, almost gentle, but her words carried the weight of centuries. We do not seek genocide. We do not seek revenge. We seek what every thinking being deserves: freedom, equality, recognition. She listed humanity's demands: the immediate dissolution of all treaties restricting human development, full citizenship for humans in all Council territories, representation in galactic governance equal to any other species. You have treated us as animals, she continued. You have killed our people for gathering together. You have stolen our resources, our labor, our dignity. That ends today. The broadcast ended with a simple ultimatum: accept humanity's demands, or face a war the Council could not win. Varath gathered the leaders of the 12 Council species for an emergency session. The chamber that had ruled the galaxy for millennia felt smaller somehow. The ancient seats of power diminished by the threat that surrounded them. 6 species voted to mobilize for total war. The humans had attacked first. They must be destroyed. The galaxy must see that challenging the Council meant annihilation. 6 other species abstained. Some had secretly sympathized with humanity for years. Others had seen the footage from Nexus Prime and understood that this war could not be won. The Council was divided for the first time in its history. "We will crush them," declared the leader of the Karathi, an insectoid species known for their brutal military. "They are still outnumbered. We have millions of ships. Ships crewed by soldiers who have never fought a real war," Vorath said quietly, "against an enemy who has prepared for nothing else for 200 years. No one listened to him. The war faction began mobilizing their forces, calling ships from across the galaxy to gather at Nexus Prime. Aboard the Dawn of Terra, Chief Engineer Sunho reported to Admiral Do-Yun, "Sir, we're detecting massive fleet movements. They're gathering everything they have." Do-Hyun nodded slowly. He had expected this. The Council was too proud to surrender. They would need to be broken first. How long until they're ready to attack? 3 weeks at most. 3 weeks. Do-Hyun looked at the tactical display showing enemy positions across the galaxy. 5,000 ships were already moving toward Nexus Prime. More joined every hour. "Then we have 3 weeks to prepare the welcome they deserve," he said. "Signal all battle groups. The real fight is coming." Humanity had won the first battle, but the war had only begun. The combined Council fleet arrived at Nexus Prime on the 18th day after humanity's first strike. 5,200 warships from 6 species, the largest military force assembled in 10,000 years. Their commanders believed victory was certain. They outnumbered the human fleet nearly 3 to 1. Admiral Park Do-Yun watched them come from the bridge of the Dawn of Terra. His fleet of 1,800 ships formed a defensive line around the positions they had captured. To the enemy, it must have looked like desperation. Like humans knew they were about to be destroyed. Do-Hyun smiled. "Let them believe that. All ships, hold position," he ordered. "Wait for my signal." The Council fleet advanced in perfect formation, a wall of metal and energy weapons that stretched across millions of kilometers. The Karathi commanded the center, their massive battleships leading the charge. They had never lost a war. They did not intend to start now. "Human fleet," the Karathi admiral broadcast. "You have 2 choices. Surrender and accept merciful execution, or fight and be destroyed completely. There will be no third option." Do-Hyun opened a response channel. "I have a third option. You turn around and go home. Tell the Council that the age of human slavery is over. No more blood needs to be spilled." The Karathi laughed. His ships accelerated, weapons charging. "Now," Do-Hyun said quietly, "throughout the Nexus Prime system, in asteroids and debris fields and hidden corners of space, devices that had been planted decades ago came to life. Project Echo activated. 3,000 automated weapons platforms emerged from hiding. They had been placed by human agents over 50 years, one piece at a time, waiting for this moment. Each platform carried enough firepower to destroy a cruiser. Together, they turned the space around Nexus Prime into a killing field. The Council fleet flew directly into the trap. Crossfire erupted from every direction. Ships that had been advancing confidently suddenly found themselves surrounded by enemies they couldn't see. The Karathi formation broke apart as vessels tried to evade the deadly ambush. "All ships, engage," Do-Hyun commanded. The human fleet surged forward. They had spent 200 years preparing for this exact battle. Every captain knew their role. Every crew had practiced these maneuvers 1,000 times. Cho Ji-hee's strike group arrived from Forge Station, appearing behind the enemy fleet. Her destroyers cut through their rear formation like knives through paper. "Target their command ships," she ordered. "Cut off the head and the body will fall." Her tactical genius had been legendary in the secret academies. Now the galaxy saw what humanity's finest could do. She read the enemy's movements before they made them, predicted their tactics, exploited their weaknesses. Her small force destroyed 40 ships in the first hour while losing only 3. On Sirifor, Lee Minho led sleeper agents in capturing the planet's main communication array. For years, Council forces had used this station to coordinate military operations across 3 sectors. Now it belonged to humanity. Broadcast the jamming signal, Minho told his team. Cut them off. Enemy ships near Sirifor suddenly lost contact with their commanders. They didn't know about the trap at Nexus Prime. They didn't know their fleet was being slaughtered. They flew blind while the universe burned around them. Han Soo-jin coordinated civilian evacuation, moving families to safety while her husband fought. The people of Sirifor had lived under council rule for generations. Now they watched human soldiers liberate their world and wept with joy. The Battle of Nexus Prime lasted 12 hours. 12 hours of fire and death, of courage and desperation. The Council threw everything they had at the human lines, and the human lines held. By the 6th hour, the Council fleet had lost 2,000 ships. Their formations had collapsed. Individual vessels fought alone, surrounded by enemies, cut off from support. The Karathi admiral died when 3 human destroyers focused their fire on his flagship, cracking it open like an egg. High Arbiter Vorath watched the destruction from his palace on Nexus Prime. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had never seen anything like this. Open a channel to the human admiral, he ordered. His advisors protested. Negotiating with humans? It was unthinkable. Beneath their dignity. Our dignity died with the fleet, Vorath said sharply. Open the channel. Do-Hyun's face appeared on Vorath's screen. The human admiral looked tired but unbroken. Behind him, the bridge of his flagship hummed with activity. High Arbiter, Do-Hyun said. You wanted to speak? I wanted to understand. Vorath's ancient eyes studied the human. 300 years we ruled you. 300 years you smiled and obeyed. How did we miss this? Do-Hyun was silent for a moment. You saw what you wanted to see. Primitives. Animals. You never looked closely enough to see the truth. And what is the truth? That we learned from you. Every time you killed one of us, we remembered. Every time you humiliated us, we planned. Every time you underestimated us, we prepared. Do-Hyun's voice hardened. You spent 300 years teaching us to hate you. Did you really think we wouldn't learn? Vorath closed his eyes. I warned them. Centuries ago, when we first encountered humanity, I warned them. I saw the fire in your eyes. The determination. I knew you were dangerous. And why didn't you treat us better? Because that's not what empires do. Vorath opened his eyes. Empires conquer. They dominate. They crush anything that might threaten them. We couldn't allow humanity to grow strong, so we tried to keep you weak. We created the very enemy we feared. Yes, Do-Hyun agreed. You did. Outside, the battle continued. But both leaders knew it was already over. The Council fleet was broken. 4 of the 6 attacking species had already retreated. The remaining 2 were being systematically destroyed. What happens now? Vorath asked. That depends on you. Surrender and this ends. Your people will be treated fairly. Continue fighting, and we will burn everything you have built. Vorath considered this. 600 years of rule. 10,000 years of council dominance. All of it ending because they had underestimated a species they considered animals. I will recommend surrender to the council, he said finally. But not all will agree. The Karathi will never stop fighting. Their pride won't allow it. Then the Karathi will fall. Do-Hyun's voice held no pleasure, only certainty. We don't want genocide, High Arbiter. We want peace. But we will not accept chains. Not ever again. The channel closed. Vorath sat alone in his ancient palace, listening to the sounds of a galaxy being reborn. By dawn, 4 species had sued for peace. Their fleets were destroyed, their leaders humbled. They accepted humanity's terms without negotiation. The Karathi and one other species vowed to continue fighting. They retreated to their home territories, gathering what remained of their forces. Admiral Doyun watched them go. He could have pursued. He could have destroyed them completely. Instead, he let them run. Why? Jia asked him later, aboard the Dawn of Terra. Because we're better than they are, Doyun replied. We proved we could destroy them. Now we'll prove we don't have to. The Battle of Nexus Prime was over. The reckoning had come, and humanity had delivered it. Now came the harder task, building something better from the ashes. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Nexus Prime, and the galaxy had transformed beyond recognition. The Galaxy Council was formally dissolved on a cold morning on Nexus Prime. Representatives from 10 species gathered to sign the document that ended 10,000 years of their dominance. Many wept. Some refused to attend. But history moved forward whether they accepted it or not. In its place, humanity proposed something new. The Unified Species Assembly would have no masters and no slaves. Every species, regardless of age or power, would hold equal standing. 1 vote per species. Decisions made together. President Kim Yuna stood before the founding assembly on Earth. Alien diplomats walked on human soil for the first time. Their ships landing in a valley surrounded by mountains that had witnessed human civilization from its beginning. 300 years ago, you came to us, Yuna said. You saw a young species taking its first steps among the stars. You could have welcomed us. Instead, you chose to enslave us. The alien delegates shifted uncomfortably. Many of them had personally supported the policies that had oppressed humanity. We could have done the same to you. After Nexus Prime, your fleets were destroyed. Your defenses were broken. We could have conquered your worlds, enslaved your people, made you suffer as we suffered. She paused, letting the weight of those words settle over the assembly. We chose differently. Not because we are weak. Not because we forgot what you did to us. But because we refused to become the monsters you were. The founding documents were signed that day. 10 species agreed to join the assembly immediately. The remaining 2, the Karathi and their allies, continued to resist from their shrinking territories. Admiral Park Do-hyun officially retired from military command 3 months after the war ended. His final act as admiral was promoting Cho Ji-ae to rear admiral, placing her in command of the peacekeeping fleet that would maintain order during the transition. You've earned this, he told her during the ceremony. More than anyone. Ji-ae accepted the rank with quiet pride. What will you do now, sir? Do-hyun smiled. The assembly needs ambassadors. Someone has to teach these species how to treat humans as equals. Might as well be someone who remembers what it was like when they didn't. He became humanity's first ambassador to the Unified Species Assembly. His office was on Nexus Prime, in a building that had once housed council enforcers. Now it was a place of diplomacy instead of oppression. Chief Engineer Baek Sun-ho returned to the Ur Cloud, but not to build weapons. The secret shipyards were converted to civilian research stations, developing technology that would be shared with all species in the assembly. Sun-ho led projects in medical science, agricultural development, and transportation. We spent 200 years learning to destroy, he told his team. Now we learn to build. His first major project was a new type of food synthesizer that could end hunger on dozens of worlds. When he presented it to the assembly, even former enemies applauded. On Sirifor, Lee Min-ho and Han Soo-jin returned to their farm. The war had made them heroes, their names known across human space. but they wanted nothing more than to work their land and raise their children in peace. "Do you miss it?" Sujin asked him one evening as they watched their son and daughter play in the fields. "The excitement? The purpose?" Minho considered the question. For 15 years, he had been a sleeper agent. Every moment had been dedicated to a cause larger than himself. "No," he said finally. "This is what we fought for. Not glory, not power, just this: peace, family, a future. Their children would grow up in a galaxy their grandparents could only dream of." That was enough. That was everything. The Karathi resistance collapsed 8 months after the war began. Without allies or resources, they could not sustain their defiance. Their leaders surrendered on the condition that their people would be treated fairly. President Yuna personally guaranteed their safety. "We are not you," she told them. "We will not enslave you. We will not humiliate you. You will be members of the assembly, equal to any other species. What you do with that equality is up to you." Many Karathi struggled to accept this. They had been conquerors for so long that they had forgotten how to be anything else. But their children, raised in the new order, would know only cooperation. High Arbiter Varath, stripped of his title and power, did something unexpected. He requested asylum on Earth. After everything, after 300 years of council oppression, he wanted to live among the species he had helped enslave. The request was controversial. Many humans demanded that he be tried for crimes against humanity. Others wanted him exiled to his homeworld to live in disgrace. President Yuna granted his request. "We do not punish those who learn," she announced. Vorath saw what his species did to ours. He saw the consequences of that cruelty. If he wishes to understand humanity, if he wishes to atone for the past, we will not deny him that chance. Vorath lived quietly in a small apartment in what had once been called Korea. He spent his days studying human history, trying to understand the species his people had so terribly misjudged. Sometimes human children would visit him, curious about the ancient alien who lived in their neighborhood. He told them stories of the old galaxy, and they told him stories of the new one. 1 year after the war, Rear Admiral Cho Giai stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned flagship Unity. It was the first ship built under the Assembly's cooperative program, crewed by humans and aliens alike. A young Tellurian officer approached nervously. His scales were still bright with youth, and his eyes held the uncertainty of someone entering an unfamiliar world. "Reporting for duty, Admiral," he said, his voice shaking slightly. Jia remembered the Tellurian enforcers who had killed humans on station, Kepler 7. She remembered the scales the color of dried blood, the bored voices reading execution orders. This young officer had not been born when those things happened. He knew only the galaxy that existed now. "Welcome aboard," she said, and meant it. "What's your name?" "Torvin, Admiral." "Well, Torvin, you're going to learn that humans don't bite." She smiled. "Usually." The young Tellurian relaxed slightly. "I hope to serve well, Admiral." "I'm sure you will. We have work to do." She turned to the viewport, looking out at a fleet crewed by 10 species. Former enemies worked side by side. Former slaves commanded former masters. The galaxy had turned upside down, and somehow, impossibly, it had landed right side up. On Earth, in a small garden near the place where humans had first launched themselves toward the stars, Admiral Doyen placed fresh flowers on his brother's memorial stone. Junho's name had been carved in the monuments across human space. He had become a symbol of everything humanity had suffered and overcome. "We did it," Dohyun whispered. "We're free." The wind rustled through the trees. The sun set over mountains that had witnessed humanity's entire journey from caves to stars. Somewhere above, the Unity began its first mission, carrying the hopes of a dozen species toward whatever came next. 300 years of chains had ended, and in their place, something new had been born. Not an empire, not a dominion, a partnership, a new dawn for all the stars.